The Queen's Jewish Link presents the Jewish Living Podcast, the show that examines the many facets of Orthodox Jewish life. Here's your host, Izzo Zwirin.
One of the hardest things to do in Judaism is making a shidduch. That's not me saying that, that's the Gemara. We don't necessarily consider it that difficult, seeing as the Gemara compares it to splitting the Yam Suf, and to my knowledge, that's only been done once in history. Shidduchim, on the other hand, are just a bit more common throughout history, and as technology evolves, people out there are looking for ways to use it to make the shidduch process just a little bit easier and more streamlined. One of those such people is today's guest.
Hi, I'm Evan Harris, the founder of MoDate's, the mutual friend you wish you had.
Evan will bring us up to date with his brand new matchmaking venture and tell us how anyone listening can get involved. Evan, thank you so much for joining me this week. I really appreciate your time. I want to get a little bit of background on you before we jump into MoDate. What possessed you to get into this area, and what got you into the dating world from the, the shadchan side of things?
Sure. So nice to meet you, by the way. I basically entered the dating world in August of 2020 when the pandemic was still flaring, and it was really hard to meet people naturally. And so I didn't really know what I was doing. I had been in a long-term relationship before that came about naturally. And once that ended, I was looking for something new and I didn't really know how to find it. So I found myself trying all different avenues. I had dating apps. I tried YU Connects. I spoke to some shadchans, and the one that felt the most comfortable to me was getting set up by friends. However, I realized that friends aren't always thinking about your dating needs and that you know a lot of your friends' friends. So I felt like there needed to be a process that scaled up the process of setting up friends.
And that led you to invent MoDate. I don't say invent. I know that it's weird when you're talking about technology, but let's talk about a little bit about MoDate. What is exactly MoDate?
Sure. So MoDate started in February 2021 as a way for me to just become a shadchan, essentially. I wasn't using the word. I was just saying that I wanted to help set people up, wanted people to sign up for this service called MoDate, and I was going to help set them up. I ended up partnering with one of my friend's girlfriends, and we just added people to our database, but people weren't really signing up on their own. And after having a long conversation with a friend of a friend, it was clear that the reason that people might not be signing up was for privacy reasons. So we together came up with this idea for an alias system, and that's when MoDate really started taking off. So what MoDate is that we have a bunch of connectors. Connectors are people between the ages of 20 and 39, and they send the MoDate form to their friends. The MoDate form asks a bunch of personality and religious questions, and MoDaters, the people filling out the form, entered anonymously. They're given an alias by their connectors. Then what happens is I have a tech guy. So he created an algorithm that basically creates matches based on religious compatibility and personality compatibility. We run the algorithm once a week. And at that point, connectors receive emails with the matches, but they're still all in alias form. They reach out to the other connectors and decide whether or not they want to set up the people. And at that point, identities are revealed and all the normal setup process is done.
So just to be clear, connectors are, I guess, in this case, in our world, these are the friends that would be setting up. And these connectors don't necessarily know each other, obviously.
Correct.
Okay. So whereas in other dating services, or even in this world, in the real world that we live in, the suggestion goes to probably the individual. It's not going to the individual. It's going to other connectors and who are acting as joint shadchanim, I guess.
At first, yes. So at first, the suggestion is going to both the respective connectors, and then it's sent to the actual individuals involved.
All right. So let me ask you a question. How does one, I'm going to guess, just based on listening, in order to become a MoDater, you are probably going to have to sign up somehow, whether you're invited or however it is. How does one become a connector?
Sure. So it's actually, for me, more beneficial for people to sign up to be connectors, because you can't sign up to be a MoDater without a connector.
Okay.
So the way it works is that we have both an Instagram and a website right now. Our Instagram handle is at MoDate 613 and our website is MoDate.org. So the way it started was all word of mouth. I was spreading the word and having people sign up to be connectors. And it was tough because, obviously it wasn't a proven system at that point. And I couldn't really get people that were so close to me to become connectors because I knew all the people that they knew. So it was really finding these tangential friends who had different crews to become connectors. Now, a lot of people are discovering us on Instagram and also are able to visit our website, which is really strictly for informational purposes, but also has different areas where you could sign up to become a connector and sign up to become a MoDater and fill out those forms. And once people sign up to be a connector, I reach out to them.
Okay, so let me go about these forms. I don't need to know exactly what's on there. You can give me a rough estimate of what's on there, but I'm more concerned about, and it's probably going to be a concern about a number of people, is safety. So I understand that the way that you set it up so that it's only the connectors who talk to each other initially, and then one will decide the other. But if the concern that some people listening might have is, okay, but who's screening these connectors to make sure that they're on the up and up? Do they have to have references that you make sure that everybody you're bringing onto your site is normal?
Sure. So I understand how safety is an issue. And the answer is we do not really screen connectors. However, I am texting all the connectors before they're actually starting the MoDate process because it does take people some time to understand how the process works. However, I, at this point, have plenty of friends involved with MoDate. So if, let's say, one of these new connectors, MoDaters, matches with one of my friends' MoDaters, then I will find out more information about, I guess you can say, normalcy. And also at the same time, I mean, if someone doesn't want to go out with someone, then, they don't have to. So it's kind of like if someone is not normal, for whatever that means, then.
You're right. Normal wasn't the right word. I apologize for using that. You're right. I was in safe. Safe is the word.
I guess I don't really see any information that can be taken that would create safety issues because the MoDaters are signed up anonymously. They're not entering anything dangerous in there. I mean, if a connector signed up and wanted to take someone's phone number and email address, I guess they could, but I think that's true regardless. I don't think those things are so protected.
Oh, sorry. I apologize. Let me be more clear. Sorry. It wasn't about the safety about personal information. It was to make sure that the people that are being set up that are going to go on a date are going to be going out with someone who they don't know, who not necessarily even their friends who are the connectors know. They're going out with someone who, to all intents and purposes on their side, is going to be a stranger.
Sure.
So the gatekeeper in these cases are the two connectors. But if connector A is my friend and connector B is an unknown, that connector B is the one that I'm concerned about, to make sure that person doesn't have ill intents in mind and is helping.
Sure, I understand. I understand your question. So I think that first of all, the gates are the connectors, right? And so also I think that with this setup process, especially in the modern Orthodox world, people are very picky from what I find. So people are not just hearing these suggestions blindly without doing their own research. I think people aren't just agreeing to go on dates with people without doing their own research. I also think this problem probably exists in dating apps as well, like even more so because you don't even have that connector blockage. So the only area where this problem doesn't exist is where the person actually knows both parties. But yeah, I think that we definitely have extra safety precautions in there. Also, the fact that I screen the connectors a bit is important. And so all those levels, I think, are enough protection to keep things safe. And I've never heard of a scenario where a date happened where someone felt that they were in danger in any way.
Okay, terrific. Let me ask you this. Let's move it to the other side. It's only been around, we're recording this in the end of December of 2011. You said that this started in 2021. I am old. The end of 2021. And you said this started in February of 2021. So we're not even a year in. Have you had any success yet?
Sure. So The idea for MoDate started in February, but the actual sending out of the form started out in April 2021.
Okay, so we're even 3/4 of a year at this point.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of people ask me if I've had success, and obviously, usually they mean, are there any successful shidduchs from it? And the answer to that is no. The longest relationship that we've had for a MoDate, to my knowledge, has been a month and a half, with plenty of dates happening here and there. But in my mind, success at this point is really just numbers. And taking into account that we're only dealing with modern Orthodox people, whatever that means, we have right now, as of today, December 22nd, 2021, over 900 MoDaters and over 250 connectors, to the point that I had to start a second MoDate connector WhatsApp group earlier this week. So I think that means you're doing well.
Yeah, well, when you have to start a second WhatsApp group, you know you're doing something right. So let me ask you a question based on who can become connectors. You mentioned earlier that there's an age requirement. I understand kind of the lower barrier. Why is there an upper barrier on connectors? Why is it up until 39?
Sure. So the reason I decided on 39 was because I feel that a big problem that a lot of people have in the modern Orthodox world with shidduchim is that people don't necessarily like the feeling of these quote unquote adults, I guess parents, older parents, setting them up, because they don't really know them. They don't really know their personality. And the whole point of MoDate, and as I said earlier, our tagline is the mutual friend you wish you had, is that you're being set up by your friends. So we don't want people to have this mix and match of some people are represented by their friends and some people are represented by their moms, let's say. It's also might be uncomfortable for some people, some connectors who are 21 years old, to start talking about their friends to a 55-year-old. So there are other systems like YU Connects where most of the connectors are on, I don't know about most, but I think generally most of the connectors are probably on the older side. And we're not trying to be like that. We're trying to be that in a place where dating is done through the people that know you best. And those probably aren't people that talk to you for 15 minutes on the phone. They're probably the people who have spent time with you for a good portion of your life.
Okay, so I'm going to ask two questions based on the answer you just gave me. First one is pretty obvious. Let's say I'm 35 right now. Hi, audience. In case you didn't know that, I'm 35. Eventually, I'm gonna if I start out as a connector, eventually I'm gonna age out. Do I get booted once I hit 40?
No, we're not so strict on that. You know, we just put it there so people kind of have a general baseline idea. I haven't actually kicked. I'm sure we have people here who are, you know, on the border, like almost turning 40. I don't really check so closely. It's just if I see a connector who's like in their 50s, I might tell them that this isn't the kind of thing for them. And so, or a MoDater. And the truth is, we do have age limits that you're able to select as a MoDater. So you probably won't even get matches if you're signing up on the older end, unless, you know, some people don't put age limits in, they're optional. So
right. So that's what I was going to ask also, because what about older daters? So if let's say I'm 39 and I'm single, I might have friends that are, you know, 45, 46, and I might be interested in someone who's that age too. What do you have anything? I mean, obviously this is geared towards the younger crowd, but I'll be honest, so you're probably in your early 20s at this point, but as you're going to get older, so will all of the people that are on the site right now. So hopefully by the time they hit a certain age, they won't be needing your services anymore. But eventually there will be an older crowd that might be interested in using your platform. Is that something that you've had thoughts about, or is that not something you're catering to at this point? But what are the thoughts about that?
Sure. So as we discussed earlier, these current MoDate iteration, even though there have been many changes, has only been around since April. Right. So right now we're still running everything. Well, we have an algorithm, but we're still running the basic front end, I guess you could say, through Google Sheets, Google Forms. And those kinds of tools, like very basic tools.
Right.
We don't plan on doing that forever. And there have been questions that have been added on throughout the months that not everyone has answered. So the age limit, because at first I was just going to people around my age. So the age limit, maybe not everyone has answered. So let's say we have this huge influx now of 45-year-olds or whatever it is, and then they'll match with some, I don't know how, 23-year-olds that might not want to date them or anything like that. We also don't have any questions yet about divorce or children. And we have 900 plus people who filled this out. So we would just have to assume their answers because we don't have a direct line at this point to the MoDaters. So once we fix that, and that is in the works currently, we can open up to theoretically any age.
All right. Obviously, we're very in the very beginning stages of this, and it sounds very promising. And I'm glad that you're taking stock of all these things that are going to come up. This is a very complicated world to get into, as I'm sure you've discovered only in the first not even a year of making it go. But let me shift a little bit, because what people are going to want to know is, this is costing you money. This is not, you said you have a developer, you have a website that you have to pay for, there's costs involved. Is this something that you're currently making money on, or have in mind to make in the future?
So my developer is my friend. So both of us, I got to give him credit also, Menachem Losev, both of us are doing this for free. So we are not making any money. This is also not my full-time job. And this is something that I took up because I felt like there was a hole in my community and I wanted to give back. And, you know, it's grown to a point where I don't know if I ever expected it to grow this big. And I'm very thankful because it provides me, you know, a lot of pride and a lot of just happiness that I was able to create something that could really help a lot of people. In terms of costs, like, we obviously do have some costs, and we do even create costs for ourselves. We actually have Connector of the Month awards. We have MoDate dating vouchers, where we give out a number of dating vouchers for first dates set up through MoDate every month. And we've also had various Instagram giveaways. So there are costs. I actually donate my Maser money, a portion of it, to MoDate. And we also made the option available to people to donate if they want to MoDate.
But there's currently no costs for MoDaters or connectors on the site, correct?
Correct.
And no plans for that to change?
Correct. Connectors actually have incentives to
oh, interesting. So connectors could earn something from being on here?
Correct. They're Connector of the Month awards, which in the past have been Amazon gift cards, Knicks tickets, and we also sometimes run various promos. Like this month, obviously, as I'm sure a lot of your audience knows, there is a shidduch crisis out there where it just seems like there are more girls than guys. It doesn't really make sense, but it just seems that way in the dating world. And so we try to run various promos to get more guys to sign up. So we do tons of different things for that.
Oh, phenomenal. What about any plans for an app?
Sure. So that's basically what I was hinting to before. Okay. I don't know if it's going to be a mobile iOS app or a web app. We're still in early stages of development. I don't have any idea when it will be ready, but my tech guy and I are down in Florida right now with a few other friends, and it's something we are working on.
Phenomenal. I want you, I know you mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I want you to give a little bit more of where people can find you, either you, the person, or you, the website and social media.
Sure. I the person, I mean, my name's Evan Harris. You could find me on various forms of social media, and I'm living on the Upper West Side. MoDate can be found at MoDate613 on Instagram and MoDate.org.
Okay, and information on signing up for MoDate is available on
MoDate.org.
Okay.
MoDate.org has all the information, describes the entire process, and describes how to sign up. We have a video. MoDate 613 is good for more giveaways, seeing different connector spotlights. We also just do various different things for engagement on our Instagram stories, like quizzes, polls, And yeah, so I would suggest following us and checking out the website to learn more.
All right, so I have two more questions just about how things work. So firstly, let's say a shadchan, like somebody who is a shadchan, wants to sign up to become a connector. Is that something that you'd entertain?
So we actually do have a connector who told me that she's also a connector for YU Connect. And yeah, I don't see a problem with it as long as they really know the people that they're representing.
Okay.
So, or maybe she used to be a connector for YU Connect, but I think she was involved at one point. And as long as people know that the people that they're representing, then I have no problem. And the truth is, let's say someone signs up and they find that their connector isn't doing a good job, or at least they don't think they're doing a good job. We do also have a MoDate transfer portal where people can switch connectors.
Oh,
So
man.
if you find that you don't like your connector, or your connector took you on, but realizes, wait, I don't really know this person that well. Why am I texting 3 people a week to talk about them? I'm not really able to do that. Then they could suggest you find a new connector.
All right. And the other question is so what we've been talking about is very much the modern Orthodox crowd. Is there any way that you can think of to expand this to other communities?
Sure. So I've actually had people come to me to expand it to honestly both directions, more to the left and more to the right. The truth is, in my mind right now, I'm focused on this because this is where I'm at. I also think that this happens to be a uniquely modern Orthodox problem. And I'll explain that because I think people that are more to the right religiously are far more comfortable with getting resumes, going on shidduch dates, and having
what has become the traditional shadchan route.
Yeah. And what has become the traditional shadchan route, correct. And people to the left, it's easier for them to meet people that they really believe they will marry or fall in love with on dating apps. And there are dating apps out there like JSwipe, Hinge, which really do cater to a large Jewish audience. However, a good portion of that is less than modern Orthodox. Right. So I think that they have an easier time in that direction. And I think this unique space of really trying to get set up by friends, and that's how a lot of my friends have met their wives or girlfriends, is very uniquely modern Orthodox. So of course, like, we'd love to expand one day into something greater. And, you know, if someone was to shell out a ton of cash for this to become, you know, more legitimate and more widespread, then I would still definitely keep something like MoDate for modern Orthodox people, like very specifically, because I think, you know, it's great to have something for, you know, the people that I most relate to, but I would definitely try other things as well.
I'm curious how this would work forget like a Jewish setting, but just in any community that maybe this is, I don't know where it's all that common for friends of friends to set people up. I'm sure it's not terribly uncommon, but I'm curious how this would do in other settings, not just the Jewish world.
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, I think that a good part of the Jewish world for this sense is that everyone kind of knows everyone. So like
the degrees of separation in the Jewish world is much fewer than 6.
Exactly. So when there's only usually 3 degrees of separation maybe between people, then it's just much easier to find out more about a person before going on a date with them.
Yeah.
And I know a lot. I mean, I think dating apps have been very successful in the non-Jewish world, and they kind of allow for people to talk before meeting. So that's right. Kind of like, if we're talking about the safety issues from before, or just not really knowing anything about the person, then the ability to talk before really meeting is great. And obviously, when you get set up with someone, you also usually, in the modern Orthodox world at least, get their number beforehand and have the chance to call or text or whatever it is. And so there is still that talking, but it's much less than people who are, you know, matching with each other on a dating app, and just before they even know for sure they're going to go on a date, they're just talking first.
Oh, phenomenal. Is there anything else that we have not covered yet that you think is important for the audience to know?
I think it's just important to know that MoDate is anonymous right now, in the sense that people who sign up are signing up through an alias. There's no way to know who someone is unless you live in a very obscure area where no one else lives and people know who your friends are. And so people who feel that there's a stigma with dating apps and feel like I don't want to do this online dating, it's important to really take a look into what it really is and know that you're just filling out basically a 3-minute form to get more suggestions. The connectors are the ones putting in the work at this point. You're just filling out a form. It's going to take you a few minutes and you're just going to get more suggestions. And, even if you don't find anyone through it, what's the harm in taking 3 minutes out of your day?
Right.
And you're not even being publicized to the world. You're anonymous until you have a match. So that would be my advice to people.
All right. Terrific. Evan, thank you so much for joining me this week. Really interesting program you guys have working over there. I'm very curious to see how well it takes off. 900 is very good for our first year, and I wish you guys all the hatzlacha in the world and continuing to grow it.
Thank you, Izzo. Thanks so much for having me.
My thanks to Evan Harris for joining me this week. When first putting this episode together, I was concerned that my audience may not be the most ideal demographic for this concept. Based on the feedback I get, most of you are married, and many of you might not fall into the category of someone that may use this type of service even if you are single. But upon further reflection, I think it's clear that even if you aren't in the market for a shidduch, you can still help by signing up as a connector. Who knows? You may be the first success story for MoDate. Until next time, Kol Tov.
The Jewish Living Podcast is produced by Sreli Paikus. Our theme song is The Band by A.B. Rottenberg. Follow us on Facebook at The Jewish Living Podcast and on Twitter and Instagram at Jewish_living. You can also email the show at jewishlivingpodcast@gmail.com. The Jewish Living Podcast is recorded in conjunction with the Queen's Jewish Link.